Jailed for more than 7 years, the couple in charge of a dog that killed a 10-year-old child. Jack Liss was playing at a friend's house when the animal called Beast attacked him last November. Today, Jack's mother said his death had left a huge rift.
I'm without my son. I'm without his smiles, his stories, his presence. He deserved to live more of a life than this.
Well, Jack's parents say more must be done to stop this from happening again to another family. Also tonight, a High Court judge blocks an attempt to stop the government's Rwanda flights. We'll have the very latest. As calls to help the British men sentenced to death for fighting in Ukraine intensify, we speak to a friend who says they must be protected as prisoners of war. The cutbacks we're all making as the cost of living crisis hits everyone harder, and
Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours.
When good friends have to say goodbye, cast past and present reunite for the final ever episode of Neighbours.
Lovely, emotional, driving into Ramsay Street.
This is the ITV Evening News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. The mother of a 10-year-old boy mauled to death by a dog at a friend's house has paid an emotional tribute to her beautiful boy. Jack Liss was killed by a powerful American bully-type dog called Beast in Caerphilly last November. Today, the animal's owner and the woman looking after it at the time were jailed for a total of 7.5 years. While outside court, Jack's mum, Emma Whitfield, said the attack was a consequence of people wanting a status symbol. CCTV pictures showed the dog attacking people just days before Jack was killed. And a warning, this report from our correspondent Ben Chapman contains some of that footage.
The way Jack Liss died still haunts his family's memory of their loving 10-year-old boy. Last November, he'd gone to a friend's house to play, but had barely made it through the front door when he was set upon and killed by this dog. Called Beast and weighing 100 pounds, it left him with injuries too horrific to describe in court. His family, wearing red in his memory, said today it should never have been allowed to happen.
This has been the consequence of people wanting a status symbol. This animal was not a family pet. It was not a cute, cuddly member of the family. It was made to be this way, and there was absolutely no intent on anyone calming it from the moment it was born. More needs to be done regarding the law to prevent these types of owners and to prevent this situation happening again.
Amy Salter was in charge of the dog that afternoon and was jailed today for 3 years. Brandon Hayden, its owner, for 4.5 years. He knew it was aggressive when he'd bought the dog just 5 days before. CCTV played in court shows him struggling to control it. In another clip, Beast, an American bully breed, jumps up at a passerby. He bit at least 2 people in the days before attacking Jack, lunging and running at children outside a village shop.
Whilst this dog was not on the banned breeds list, it was aggressive and powerful. Those who had encountered this dog would have known about its unsuitable temperament and the danger that the animal could pose to a child.
The dog was shot by police at the scene. Jack's mother says she still sees its teeth and hears it barking, imagining her son's final moments.
I'm without my son. I'm without his smiles, his stories, his presence. Nothing will ever make up for what this has done to our family. Jack laughed, he played, he told jokes. He deserved to live more of a life than this. So much has been taken from us. Now we must live our life sentence without such a beautiful boy.
She says no jail term will ever be enough for the torture they will continue to live with. Ben Chapman, ITV News.
Well, Hannah Thomas is outside Cardiff Crown Court for us this evening. Hannah, the impact on Jack's family was laid bare to the court today.
Yes, we heard victim impact statements read out at Cardiff Crown Court from Jack's parents. Jack's father said he struggles to get up every day now his son has gone. His mother Emma says she suffers from PTSD and relives the nightmare of seeing her son dragged out from the property he was attacked in and the horror of his injuries. The sound, she says, of the gun that firearms officers used to destroy the dog upstairs in the property will stay with her forever. Her words also spoke of the anger she felt that her child went out to play and never came home. After sentencing, she and the family came out here to the steps and she read a very powerful statement which reminded us all that her family are now living a life sentence without their beautiful boy.
All right, Hannah in Cardiff, thank you. The High Court has tonight rejected an attempt to halt a flight expected to deport dozens of people from the UK to Rwanda. The controversial deportations are due to start on Tuesday. Today, charities brought a last-minute legal challenge against the policy. Well, a judge refused to grant an injunction against the flight but said individual cases would be considered. Our deputy political editor, Anushka Stana, has the latest.
It all begins here, with asylum seekers crammed onto small boats, making dangerous crossings from Calais to Dover. Ministers say deporting people who arrive like this to Rwanda will help deter others. Campaigners disagree, saying the policy is inhumane. They wanted to ground the first flight due next week, but they have just lost. A High Court judge refused to grant an injunction that would give charities and lawyers more time to make their legal arguments.
We have clients in detention who have removal directions and who are terrified about what's about to happen, to be removed to a third country they have no knowledge of. We think these proposals are fundamentally unlawful.
One man due to be on that flight spoke to ITV News this morning from Brook House Detention Centre. He was a police commander in Iran who refused a government order to shoot protesters.
Monsieur Shurukani? Okay, we can start.
He fled fearing for his life. He says smugglers gave him no choice about the journey. He was just taken to Calais.
When we saw the boat, there were a few people who didn't want to get on. There were about 10 armed men around us who were forcing us to get on the boat. So I accepted and I got on.
And how do you feel about the idea of being sent to Rwanda?
I still can't believe it. I am really, really stressed. And with the case that I have, Rwanda is really not a safe country for me.
Why not?
Because I know, because of the relationship that the Islamic Republic has with the Rwandan government, they can deport me at any time if they find out that I'm there.
And how scared are you about the idea of getting on that flight?
I'm very, very scared.
He will be deeply disappointed, but a Conservative MP from the Midlands said the policy was meant to save lives.
We're all human beings. We don't want to see people dying in the Channel. We want to see an end to people being smuggled across the Channel. The government's come up with a scheme. I fully back the scheme. And I think most people out there, the people I speak to, certainly my inbox on a daily basis, is fully in support.
For now, no injunction stopping the flight, but expect many more individual legal challenges.
Anushka is in Westminster for us tonight. Anushka, what reaction has there been to that judgment?
Well, there's been different reaction on all sides. The gentleman who I spoke to during that piece has said he is very, very upset. He doesn't know what to do about it. He says he was in international waters and the British brought him here to face this ordeal. He claimed that he would have claimed for asylum in any European country, but that the smugglers brought him here. Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, has said that Rwanda is a safe country for refugees, and she has welcomed this result. She has said there will still be legal challenges and last-minute claims, and we will expect that over the next few days. Interestingly, today, the individuals who are involved in this claim have had their removal letters withdrawn, so you can expect others to try to follow suit. In many ways, I think the Home Secretary doesn't mind having this battle with who she has described as lefty lawyers. So the flight is due to go, but there will be more, including an appeal on this case on Monday.
OK, Anushka, thank you. A close friend of one of the two Britons sentenced to death for fighting in Ukraine has told ITV News he should be protected as a prisoner of war under the Geneva Convention. Brennan Phillips says Aidan Aslin has made Ukraine his home and is not a mercenary. Aslin and Sean Pinner were convicted of terrorism after being captured in the east of the country by Russian forces. The UK has branded the trial a sham. From Kyiv, our Europe editor James Mates has the latest.
In Kiev today to show support for Ukraine, but not a word on the fate of the two Britons sentenced to death. Defence Secretary Ben Wallace sticking to the British policy that these men were serving in Ukraine's armed forces and that to intervene too directly may help Russia justify its claim they were in fact mercenaries. Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner spent their first full day under sentence of death in Donetsk, denied prisoner of war status by their captors and not being treated in accordance with the Geneva Convention. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss protested again by tweet today about the breach of the rules of war. Spoke with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, she said, to discuss efforts to release prisoners of war held by Russian proxies. The judgment against them is an egregious breach of the Geneva Convention. Aslin's friend, Brennan Phillips, who volunteered with him on the Kurdish side in Syria, confirmed to me in Kiev today that he'd been a Ukrainian Marine since long before the war.
He has a home here in Ukraine. His fiancée is Ukrainian, and he served as a uniformed service member in the Ukrainian Marine Corps. So it's not even possible that he could be or would be a mercenary.
And he would be protected by the Geneva Convention?
Absolutely, yeah.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov continued with another fiction that somehow these men were convicted by an independent republic that has nothing to do with Moscow.
At the moment, all the processes that you mentioned are based on the legislation of the Donetsk People's Republic. I would not interfere with the work of the judicial and law enforcement system of the Donetsk People's Republic.
But the Russian Foreign Ministry, in a statement from Moscow, continues to insist that despite the evidence, these men were not legal combatants and that therefore international humanitarian law doesn't apply to them. But for as long as that pretense is maintained, it's difficult for London or Kiev to know how and with who to engage for their release. And assuming this is part of a negotiating ploy, what exactly Moscow is going to want in exchange. James Mates, ITV News, Kiev.
Back here, a manhunt is underway tonight after a teenage boy died and his mother was injured in a stabbing at a house in Manchester. From Manchester, here's Emma Sweeney with the latest.
Well, police don't often use the word ferocious, but that is how they've described last night's attack here on Bednall Avenue. Emergency services were called to the scene at around 9:30 to report a 15-year-old boy and his mother had suffered from serious stab wounds. The pair were treated at the scene before being taken to hospital, and it was there the boy died a short time later. Now, the suspected attacker is believed to have been known to the victims. He's been described as an Asian man in his 40s, of medium height and build. He was last seen walking towards Sawley Road shortly after the attack, and police say anybody who thinks they may have seen him should contact them, but not to approach them. Now, this has sent shockwaves through the local community. Many people today talking of their devastation, and you can see the police cordon this evening remains in place as officers say they are working at tremendous pace to try and find the person responsible.
Emma Sweeney reporting from Manchester. President Donald Trump was at the centre of an attempted coup at the Capitol in January last year, a US Congressional Committee has claimed. An inquiry accused the former president of lighting the flame for the attack, which saw his supporters storm Congress. The results, screened on primetime US TV, also said it was clear Mr. Trump knew he'd lost the 2020 election. From Washington, here's our correspondent, Robert Moore.
Committee members walked in with the primary goal of persuading Americans that January the 6th was a coup orchestrated by Donald Trump.
President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack.
New video was played showing the ferocity of the assault on the Capitol. The committee wanted to show all Americans, whatever their politics, how close the country came to losing its democracy that day.
We need an area for the House members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels.
Above all else, this was an attempt to connect Donald Trump to the storming of the Capitol.
They were peaceful people. These were great people.
And by implication to show he can never again be trusted with power. Testimony from his own Attorney General was played, showing that Trump was warned the election was not fraudulent.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was.
Even Trump's daughter Ivanka told the committee she agreed with that assessment.
I respect Attorney General Barr, so I accepted what he was saying.
Notes were being passed to Trump urging him to tell those who had entered the Capitol to leave immediately. But still Trump was silent. The anti-Trump Republican on the committee, Liz Cheney, warned her party they were making an historic mistake in supporting the former president.
I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain.
Was there a conspiracy to overthrow an election?
The hearing was broadcast in prime time across all major networks. But it may only deepen America's rift.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
With Donald Trump now denouncing the whole presentation as a witch hunt conducted by political thugs. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
There's plenty more still to come, including how we're all changing our habits because of cost of living concerns and the end of an era. Neighbours, old and new, gather for the soap's last ever episode.
I mean, it all came flooding back. There was a lot of talking about memories and going back in time.
Well, we'll be sorry to see it go, but we'll see you after the break. Welcome back. There were more concerning signs today about how the cost of living crisis is impacting on people's everyday lives. The Office for National Statistics found 77% of adults were worried about the cost of living crisis. Most have already seen their outgoings increase and are cutting back on non-essentials, and more than half are using less energy, while some even said they are buying less food. Well, our Wales reporter, Rhys Williams, heard from some of those counting every penny.
Betws near Bridgend is undeniably one of the most deprived communities in Wales. The people that live here are painfully aware of their rising bills.
Like universal credit, they expect you to live off fresh air.
Although she feels the cold, Kay has stopped putting her heating on after her energy bills shot up from £120 to £189 a month.
And things are going to get much, much worse. I feel they are anyway.
Does that worry you?
Much so, especially for my grandchildren, because they are growing up in an environment that they could be homeless.
In nearby Williamstown, the Trussell Trust have recently had to open another food bank in the area due to the demand.
Well, we've seen a 32% increase in April's figures from last year, and in May there was a 55% increase on last year's figures, and last year we were still in COVID.
Come on then, let's go. 20 miles down the motorway in Newport, and free breakfast at the community centre for these young mums has gone from being a social event to an absolute necessity.
There is hell of a lot, not just down here, like everywhere, there's hell of a lot of families in poverty. More families now than there ever was before. And they've upped prices, but they've never changed the wages. How can you expect people to still afford to buy these necessities, but they're still living off this bare minimum wage?
It's not just food and energy bills. Emma's having to turn down work because of the cost of petrol.
Yeah, it's just a knock-on effect, really, and you live in week to week then, rather than being able to budget a month ahead. I can't say I go to sleep every night happy, because I'm always worried about the next day or the next day, but we get by. We get by. We make it work. Got it. Yeah.
It's only a small piece of the jigsaw, but the Welsh Government is offering vouchers to help those struggling to pay their energy bills on prepayment meters. Perhaps some comfort for families like Nicole and Emma's as they try and stay positive despite the economic gloom. Rhys Williams, ITV News, Newport.
Drivers have been urged to cut out shorter journeys by car as fuel prices continue to spiral. The AA said motorists should walk or cycle to save money. The average price of a litre of petrol at UK forecourts reached a new record of 183.2 pence yesterday. COVID infections in the UK have risen for the first time in 2 months. Nearly 980,000 people are estimated to have had the virus last week. The Office for National Statistics said the jump was likely to have been caused by increases in the original Omicron variant as well as newer ones. And in other COVID news, international travellers heading to America will no longer need to take a COVID test within a day before boarding their flights. Officials said pre-departure testing will end from Sunday. After 37 years, filming has finally wrapped on Neighbours, with some of the soap's many stars reuniting in Ramsay Street. The Australian show first aired in 1985 and launched the careers of Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Guy Pearce and many others. Here's Ian Woods on the goodbye to good friends.
The Ramsay Street sets are now deserted. The lights are going out on the show that brought a little ray of Aussie sunshine into British homes.
You ready? Yeah.
But it ended with a party not a wake and a reunion of some of the many actors who got their first big break on the show.
Scott, you want to watch your attitude?
I've always kind of wanted to step back onto the show at some point or other, and obviously with the sad news of the show finishing, it seemed like the appropriate time to come on in.
Guy Pearce went on to become a Hollywood star. Jason Donovan and Kylie Minogue launched successful pop careers off the back of a wedding watched by 20 million infatuated Brits.
I was only in the show for 2.5 years, but it's when it just exploded. Like, you know, England, they just went crazy about it. And so it's been with me ever since.
Go to Paris.
Like every soap, it mixed death with comedy.
I believe the best man lives here.
Paul Robinson married 6 times in 37 years and is the only survivor of the original cast, but only just, given regular attempts to kill him off.
Oh, put it down, please.
The plot lines apparently had royal approval.
The Queen Mum and Diana used to get, Princess Diana, used to get tapes sent from the BBC if they were ever away doing royal duties and missed out on an episode. Wow. They get them sent over to Buck Palace and probably with a cup of tea watching Neighbours. Yeah.
The series has been on Channel 5 since 2008, and it was the British broadcaster's decision to withdraw funding which led to its demise. The last episode will be screened in 7 weeks, but it's clear from the wrap party that these neighbours really did become good friends. Ian Woods, ITV News.
And if showbiz and entertainment news is your thing, there's much more on our website. That's at itv.com/news. You'll also find all the latest headlines there. We're watching the ITV Evening News. Here's what's still ahead before Emmerdale. As more cases of monkeypox are confirmed, we'll have the latest advice from health officials. Why this underwater discovery was kept under wraps for 15 years. Whoops, she did it again, but who was the uninvited guest causing a disturbance at Britney Spears' wedding? Celebrity footballers assemble ahead of the year's biggest charity match.
And I'm in beautiful gardens in sunny Gloucestershire. Find out how being around gardens and within nature can really help boost your well-being.
First, food banks are calling for a change in guidelines that are preventing them from giving out baby formula milk to desperate parents. Rocketing inflation is pushing up the price of formula, and some are even resorting to stealing it to feed their babies. Food and baby banks want to help and say they are often the first place parents turn to. But currently, advice from aid organisation UNICEF says formula shouldn't be given out because of safety concerns. Rupert Evelyn has this special report.
This security-tagged food isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's being protected because it is being stolen. It's a high-value target for desperate parents unable to fund their baby food. You may ask, why don't parents go to a food bank rather than resort to crime? Well, although food banks exist to help millions of all ages facing food poverty, guidelines prevent them from providing formula to babies.
We're not allowed to actually hand baby milk out, which is very frustrating for us because we've got so many mothers that are struggling. And mums were actually watering it down, which is obviously not a good thing because babies are not getting nutritional values that it needs. So it's dangerous what's happening here.
The day we visited, 4 mothers had been to the Disc Food Bank in Newquay, needing to feed their baby. For Monique, who runs it, this has meant getting creative with the rules.
We found a way around this by donating nappies, wet wipes, and if mums are really, really struggling, we actually give them the money to go and buy the formula.
I can't find anything that's affordable.
Unsurprisingly, parents don't want to admit on camera how tough it is finding money to feed their babies. But the ones we spoke to have had to reach out for help.
In the last couple of weeks, my baby's formula went up by £1 to £12.50. When the price of a pint goes up by 10p, there's uproar. Everyone kicks off about it. But formula milk, no one even said anything.
For both mother and baby, Skin to Skin calms and reassures.
Given that the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, is about building a better world for every child, they are, ironically, also the reason why organisations in the UK feel unable to give away formula milk. It's their guidelines, supported by UK government legislation, that food banks feel prevent them from feeding hungry babies. A survey by an infant feeding charity of NHS workers and food bank staff found the guidance doesn't work. 91% of those surveyed say it's essential that food and baby banks provide formula milk to those living in poverty.
The research showed us that health visitors and other professionals that support families in need recognise the vital role that food and baby banks play in providing formula, and the guidelines not to provide formula directly to families in need are restricting them professionally. So clarity on the law that it is okay to provide formula to formula-fed babies that are hungry and that need it is very much what's needed now.
Without that, many fear children will suffer, both from hunger and distressed parents. According to a midwife who feared speaking out in case she lost her job, the current situation is dire.
Underfed babies is dangerous. Initially, for a newborn, they can suffer from dehydration, weight loss and jaundice, and ultimately a drop in blood sugar levels that can cause irreversible brain damage.
Many people will assume that food banks automatically support everyone. But it's ironic that these places, set up to support the most vulnerable people in society, have to find loopholes just to feed babies. The government told ITV News that food banks are independent organisations and it's up to individual providers which donations they make available, adding that we have published legislation to restrict formula being given out free to families, except in emergency situations. UNICEF say the supply of infant formula must not rest on the shoulders of food bank staff and volunteers. Local authorities, they say, should have care systems in place to provide immediate support for struggling families, and they must urgently review their care pathways to ensure all families in need are receiving the support they require. Many argue that local authorities react too slowly, and that until that changes, food banks are often best placed to provide emergency support to hungry babies. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News.
Well, let's get an update on what is making the news tonight. Home Secretary Priti Patel has welcomed the High Court's decision to block an attempt by campaigners to stop the government sending migrants to Rwanda. The ruling paves the way for dozens of people to be deported on Tuesday. Calls are intensifying for 2 British men sentenced to death in a Russian court for fighting for Ukraine to be treated as prisoners of war. Friends insist the men are not mercenaries. And a couple are beginning their prison sentences after their dog mauled 10-year-old Jack Liss to death in Caerphilly last November. Paying tribute to her son, his mother said Jack had deserved to live more than a life than this. Devon and Cornwall Police and the Marine Accident Investigation Branch have tonight launched parallel investigations into a boating accident in which 2 people died. Both of the victims were disabled. Ellie Pitt is at the scene tonight. Ellie, what more can you tell us?
Well, we know a little bit more tonight about the people who've died. They are a man in his 40s and woman in her 60s. They both had disabilities and were recovered from Rodeford Lake here yesterday afternoon, about 24 hours on from when their boat capsized. There's still been police activity here today. There were 6 people on board the boat when it capsized. Officers have confirmed that a woman in her 50s is still critically ill in hospital. Another person was taken to hospital but has since been discharged, and 2 others were treated here after being pulled from the water. There have been reports that the man and woman who died were both strapped into their wheelchairs at the time that the boat capsized, but those reports haven't been confirmed tonight. Police have said that there were no other boats involved in the incident as they begin a joint investigation with the Marine Accident Investigation Branch to look into exactly what happened here, because this was supposed to be a lovely day out on the lake that just went so terribly wrong.
All right, Ellie, thank you. More cases of monkeypox have been confirmed in Britain. There have been a further 43 in England, 1 in Scotland and 1 in Wales. It means that across the UK there have been 366 cases in total. The number of infections has risen fairly steadily since they were first discovered just over a month ago. Well, our science editor Deborah Cohen joins me now. So Deborah, what is the latest advice from health officials?
Well, this isn't just the UK. Yesterday, the WHO said there were more than 1,000 monkeypox cases across 29 different countries since the outbreak began in May. And these are countries where monkeypox doesn't normally circulate, but none of them have reported any deaths, and there've only been a few hospitalisations. Now, it's worth remembering this isn't a new illness. It's been circulating in Africa for decades. And on that note, the Director General of the WHO was pretty scathing yesterday, and he said that we're only now paying attention to monkeypox because it's affecting us in high-income countries. Now, the initial symptoms include a high fever, swollen lymph nodes, and all this kind of blistery chickenpox-like rash. It's usually mild, goes away on its own after a few weeks. Now, people are thought to be infectious when the symptoms start until the scabs fall off the blisters and the skin kind of forms underneath. And the virus doesn't spread easily between people. It's close contact, and that's skin on skin, and that includes sex. And it's these sexual networks where transmission is being seen. And if you think you've got it, you should contact a sexual health clinic. And then if you're diagnosed, there's various bits of advice, but that includes you should isolate at home until the scabs on the hands, face and arms have totally gone and you haven't got any more of these new lesions in the last 48 hours.
All right, Deborah, thank you. Next tonight, a former British Olympic sprinter has told ITV News how she was racially and sexually abused during her career. Track star Anika Onora says she didn't report the incidents at the time because she feared what would happen. She told Sergio Carrier she's now sharing her experiences to raise awareness and help other women.
During 18 years of competing, sprinter Anika Onora reached the top of her sport. One of only a few British athletes to achieve a full set of medals, including at the Olympics. But her story as a black female athlete, she says, is framed by haunting racism and sexual assault.
Looking back, I was extremely angry, you know, everything just felt like it was a business and it was all about medals and success. When things were good, they were good. When things were bad, you know, it was really awful. It ultimately almost cost me my life.
Anika tried to take her life twice, while she was winning medals and beating others at the top of their game. Triggered, she says, by a series of sexual assaults. The most serious, she claims, was by a male British athlete who she's not naming.
I was in my room about to go to sleep and this person forced their way into the room and they, you know, tried to have sex with me, thinking, you know, you're going to be raped. It's also thinking I'm going to die in this moment. like this person's also going to kill me.
She claims she was also sexually assaulted by a physiotherapist. Both times, she says, she was traumatised into silence.
It was, you know, a case of, oh, I'm touching you here inappropriately, and you don't realise it's assault. And then because, even though you're flinching, you just feel completely powerless.
Did you tell UK Athletics?
No, I didn't tell anyone at the time. I didn't tell anyone.
Why did you feel not able to do that?
Fear, rejection. I didn't think I'd be believed, and I thought if I'd have said something, it may affect my team selection or my performance.
But it wasn't just sexual assault she experienced, she says, but racism. Among the worst during a photo shoot, when she says she was photoshopped out and replaced by a white model.
Out of those thousands of shots, they only picked one, and then all the photos that I took, that I had, they all reshot them with a white female model. It was so demoralising.
Annika says she would consider asking UK Athletics to investigate some of her allegations. It told us it's hugely saddened to hear of these experiences and that there have been significant changes to the culture in recent years. For now, Annika hopes by speaking out, she'll encourage others to do the same. Sejal Karia, ITV News.
A French government report into the problems at the Champions League final last month has highlighted multiple failures in crowd management. Liverpool fans, including many families, were initially blamed for the chaos that saw supporters corralled and tear-gassed at the ground in Paris. The police chief admitted he had no evidence for previous claims that up to 40,000 Liverpool fans had either a fake ticket or no ticket at all. And Sir Andy Murray has beaten the player ranked in the top 5 in the world for the first time since 2016. The double Wimbledon champion beat Stefano Tsitsipas in straight sets to reach the semi-finals of the Stuttgart Open. Britney Spears has got married one more time, tying the knot at home with Sam Asghari in California. It was supposed to be an intimate ceremony, but it didn't all go to plan. Hamish Asghari takes up the story.
The much-anticipated third wedding of Britney Spears was never going to pass without some drama, but no one predicted this.
First husband, here to crash it.
Just hours before the ceremony, her former husband live-streamed himself, apparently gate-crashing the venue.
You love roses?
Jason Alexander was married to Spears for a total of 55 hours back in 2004. Now he potentially faces time in a county jail after allegedly having an altercation with security guards.
People continually try to ruin her moments, and maybe he did that today, tried to. But I hope today she really enjoys herself.
The megastar singer got engaged last year to 28-year-old fitness instructor Sam Asghari. She said that was only possible after a court ended her conservatorship last year.
Free Britney!
That controversial legal arrangement gave her father, Jamie Spears, control of her freedom and finances for nearly 14 years. After all the pain and trauma she's been through, Britney's fans will hope this is her happily ever after. Hamish Asghari, ITV News.
And sad news now, Julie Cruz, the singer and musical collaborator who worked with director David Lynch in film and in TV, has died at the age of 65. His best-known song was Falling, used as the theme to the iconic 90s TV series Twin Peaks. Her husband wrote on Facebook, "She left this realm on her own terms with no regrets." Next tonight, a mystery 340 years in the making. When two brothers discovered a cannon deep on the seabed off the Great Yarmouth coast, they knew they'd found what they'd long been searching for. It was the final resting place of HMS Gloucester, which sank with the future King James II on board. Experts say the wreck is the most significant find for a generation. Neil Connery has more.
Hidden beneath the seas off Norfolk for more than 340 years, a royal warship whose sinking could have changed British history. In the shipwreck below, one of the cannons of HMS Gloucester is being measured. Her discovery has been hailed as the most important maritime find since the Mary Rose. The ship ran aground on a sandbank in 1682, claiming around 250 lives. She'd set sail from Portsmouth to Edinburgh with the Duke of York on board. He survived to later become King James II of England.
And still got the glaze. That's brand new, isn't it? Incredible. 340 years old, isn't it? Yeah.
Brothers Julian and Lincoln Barnwell discovered the treasure trove in 2007 after spending 4 years searching for the Gloucester. But the wreck, which lies in international waters, has been kept secret since to protect the sensitive site.
I just felt an honour, and it was just so unbelievably exciting to be that first person to touch that wreck again from the day she sank. And of course he comes out, "We found her!" So I gave him a rude gesture, but then he walked up, pumped up, hand out, "We've got her."
The ship's bell was raised to the surface in 2012. A pair of glasses from the Gloucester were also found, along with a wine bottle seal which shows the coat of arms of the Legg family, ancestors of George Washington. Historians pondered the implications if the Duke of York had died that day.
The heir to the throne, newly secure in his position, could have drowned, could have been lost, and we would have had a completely different British history if that had have happened.
For the brothers whose passion led to this dramatic discovery, a feeling of a job well done, as the secrets on this seabed emerge, nearly 4 centuries on. Neil Connery, ITV News.
Well, from the 1600s to something a bit more up-to-date this weekend. These soccer aid celebs give us their predictions ahead of Sunday's big match.
We're going to win 3-2 this year again.
I might go 3-1.
I'm going to say 4-2. I think there's going to be goals on Sunday.
And I'll bring you the full forecast from Gloucestershire. It's a sunny evening here. Find out what's in store over the weekend. I've got all the details for you shortly.
Well, Lucy and I will be back for all of that and more after this break. Hello again, welcome back. Now it is National Growing for Wellbeing Week, and Lucy is a very calming place in Misselden in the Cotswolds this evening. Lucy.
Thanks, Lucrezia. A very good evening to you. Yes, I've swapped the hustle and bustle of city life for the beautiful Cotswolds this evening. A fine and dry Gloucestershire here right now. And it really is a beautiful spot here. I'm in the Misselden estate. It's a huge estate surrounded by acres of ancient woodland. And I'm currently standing in the really picturesque, pretty gardens which date back all the way to the 17th century, can you believe? And this time of year, well, the days are at their longest, the summer solstice is around the corner, huge amounts of daylight in the middle of June. So it's no coincidence that this week marks National Growing Week for Wellbeing. And we know that being around nature, greenery and gardens such as this make a huge positive impact on our mindset. I spoke to Sarah Tanner a little earlier, who helps manage and runs this estate, about what it's like to work somewhere like this every single day.
I feel really privileged that this is my office. I come here every day. I see people visit and just the impact it has on them and their well-being. It's such a beautiful place. Yes, it's a very positive sort of calming environment, and we welcome people to come and experience that with us.
So gardeners and gardens are very dependent on the weather. Let's find out what's in store this weekend. I've got the full forecast for you now.
Feel-good weather continues throughout the evening, which wraps the day up nicely. Heinz Seriously Good Vegan Mayo sponsors ITV National Weather.
Well, it's a blustery end to the week, a little breezy given the time of year. We've got sunshine and showers on the cards tomorrow into Sunday. The showers will tend to fade and the winds will tend to ease. Taking a look at the bigger picture across Europe, and low pressure anchored to the north of us, ensuring those blustery conditions for the time of year, particularly across Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Quite windy for a time with some wet weather to come. A little drier further south, a little calmer with high pressure in charge. Taking a look at this evening, mostly fine, dry conditions, late and low sunshine for the lucky ones before dusk, and then a quiet night on the cards, if quite gusty, blustery winds across Scotland and northern England and Northern Ireland. Outbreaks of steadier rain for northwestern Scotland. For the rest of Scotland, northern England and Northern Ireland, blustery showers. Elsewhere, a little drier, and temperatures not slipping much below 14 degrees, so relatively mild night. Into tomorrow, bright and breezy, scattered blustery showers, longer downpours across northwestern Scotland. Elsewhere, the showers a little more hit and miss. The more of the drier weather will be further south, and here's some sunshine, highs of 24 degrees. Into Sunday, a little drier, a little calmer, some lovely sunshine, highs of 22.
Heinz Seriously Good Vegan Mayo sponsors ITV National Weather.
Well, that's it from me in Gloucestershire. Back to Lucrezia.
Oh, Lucy, thank you. Looking lovely there. Finally, celebrities and famous former footballers will be facing each other in this weekend's Soccer Aid. This year, some of the millions of pounds raised will go to Ukraine. The country's most well-known footballer, Andrei Shevchenko, is taking part, and he told ITV News it will save a lot of lives. Well, entertainment reporter Rishi Davda is at the London Stadium for us now. And Rishi, you've been watching the team's training, haven't you?
Yes, I caught up with the team's training yesterday evening. Celebrities lacing up their boots alongside some of the world's most legendary footballers, putting the finishing touches to tactics ahead of Sunday's game, where they'll walk out of the tunnel and onto the pitch in front of 50,000 fans. It's likely to be a real contest. I'm sure a tough tackle or two. A special half-time performance from Robbie Williams on a day that hopes to raise millions of pounds for charity.
Silky skills on show as celebs and former pros limber up ahead of Soccer Aid, with the money raised helping children around the world.
To be involved with raising so much money, like we raised 13 million last year, so to be involved with that is unbelievable.
Ukrainian football legend Andrei Shevchenko is proud some of the funds will go to his homeland.
This situation with my country in the war against Russia, and it's going to make big difference. It's going to save a lot of lives.
One, just the whole soccer aspect is it's a dream for me, but on top of that, the fact that it's for such an amazing cause.
A couple of Olympians will be playing at the very venue where they picked up multiple gold medals 10 years ago.
Just to walk in the stadium is going to be a great feeling for me, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It brings back great memories. Absolutely, say making a triple there, myself making a double.
What the celebs lack in ability, they more than make up for in confidence.
Always confident, man. You know what I mean? We're just here, play some football. It's what me and H know best. You know what I mean? He could have been professional. And me, of course, could have done it as well. Just a bit busy.
Getting changed in the dressing room then, I felt like going, yeah, sorry I'm here.
I'll have none of that. No.
I think we've got a chance.
I don't know about you, but
I want to win. Yes, I mean, charity's all well and good.
Yeah, of course, but
you
we're
know,
here to
we
win.
actually haven't won the last 3 years.
There have been 10 Soccer Aid games since it started back in 2006. It's currently 5-all in terms of wins for Team England and the World 11. In previous years, things have been pretty close. But what's the score going to be this time round?
I feel like we're going to win 3-2 this year again.
I might go 3-1.
I'm going 4-1.
I'm going to say 4-2.
4-4 and England win the penalties.
I'm going to say 2-1.
2-1 England. I'm going to say...
You don't believe in us?
2-1.
5-4 to us.
5-4?
Yeah.
High-scoring game.
While the score doesn't really matter because it's all for a good cause, the players are definitely after the bragging rights. Rishi Davda, ITV News.
All for a good cause. It's going to be great. You can see coverage of that right here on ITV from 6:30 p.m. on Sunday night. But from us, that is it for now. Julie will be here with news at 10. But from me and all the team, bye-bye.